Hi there, welcome to Ghostman Ghost Talk. Again, this is episode number 3. Hi Ray, hi Jerome. Congratulations to Ming for his write-up. So he's the winner for part 2 of our yesterday's episode, because he shared and then he writes something about what he has learned and what the yesterday's episode is all about. So for those of you who have just got in tonight, kindly share out or tag your hiking friends, your friends that like to go for hiking, like to go up to the mountain for a stroll, the hills, as now, because we are for Penang, we are in phase 2, so most people can go for hiking. And some of your friends you have hiking, you can tag them here. Hi Crystal. So tag them here, because tonight there are some interesting topics that I'm going to talk about, especially one about mountain spirit. What are the different classifications of mountain spirit? And if you are going for hiking, what are the possible encounters that you can encounter? The second one is about self-protection, what you can do to protect yourself. If, let's say, you enter wrongly into some spirit's territory, what you should do, what can you do? These are practical advice that you can do. And also, what are those that we call the demarcation? Demarcation, that means for every spirit that's in the wild, they have their own territory. So whenever a person walks into their territory, we call it a demarcation. So the latest one that we've seen about, you remember in Thailand, the kids got into the cave and they were stuck there for so many days together with the teacher. So that is a form of demarcation. That means you go in and then you get trapped inside. For those, they are trapped because of the water. There are some people who are lost in there because somehow they can't find the road out. So we're going to talk about that tonight as well. So tag your friends in. And the fourth one is that if you happens to be followed, or somebody, or you get exposed to some of the spirit's chi in the mountain or in the hills, and it follows you back, what are the characteristics like and what you can do to help yourself if there's no master around. Okay, so these are the topics that we're going to talk today, and I don't know whether we can complete it in one evening. If we can't, then we'll follow it on the second, on tomorrow. Okay. Well, so how many of you here likes to go for hiking? So can you type hiking, so I can know how many of you here are hikers, or most of you are couch potatoes. That means you don't like to go for any outdoor activity. I used to go for hiking many years back. I used to go for even midnight hike up in Penang. Here we have Penang Hill, the route en route to Penang Hill. So me and a few of my friends, we used to be quite crazy. We will start our hike about 10 p.m. at night, and then we'll hike just using our torchlight. We'll hike up quite near to Penang Hill, and then we'll come back again. We'll come back down like midnight, close to 1 a.m. and then we'll go for nasi kandar. So I used to do that. So I'm talking also from a hiker's perspective. I have climbed different mountains up in New Zealand when I was studying in New Zealand, Australia. Last time I used to do rock climbing while I was in Australia. So now cannot. Now this thought of body weight cannot go up already. So in my young days when I was slim and fit, then I can do rock climbing. But anyway, because most of us, we're going to go into the first thing we're going to talk about is the mountain spirit. Mountain spirit. So anywhere that a person you reside, wherever you go, outside of your house. Of course, there are different environments, and every environment, especially in the wilderness, there will always be spirits, especially in the mountains, in the jungle, because those are the areas that are not developed, and then human beings, we don't spend most of our time there. So for spirits, for beings that do not have a physical body, or have partial physical body, then they would like to reside in those areas because it's far away from human beings, and they can one, do their cultivation, or they can practically live there in peace, like without any disturbance from human beings. Talking about this, how many of you have heard or you have experienced your friends or your loved ones or your close family members experience before that they've lost that means they went for hiking, somehow they were lost. They were lost for maybe can't find their way down the hill, or can't find their way up, or they are down. So how many of you have had friends or have heard friends or friends of friends get lost in the hills or in the mountains when they go up for hiking? So how many of you have heard that? If you have heard that, you can type lost, L-O-S-T, lost. So because I'm going to talk about, there was once this famous Feng Shui master in Malaysia, also got into the hills in Taiwan, the mountainous areas in Taiwan. And when they went for trekking to find the dragon veins and so on, actually they got followed by the fox spirit. This was accounted to me by a person that was with them at the time. Okay, so it was a very famous Feng Shui, Malaysia, very famous Feng Shui master. So gossip a bit. So I think 2 or 3 of the party actually was followed back by fox spirit, because in Taiwan it's very famous of fox spirit. That means wu lei, hu li. Some call it hu xian, but there's hu yao also have lah. That means there are those fox spirits. Fox spirits, then it followed them back, and somehow one of the members' character actually changed when they went back into town somewhere after, because from the mountain you don't directly go back to the hotel, so you have to stop at one of the eateries, the place to get some dinner before they head back to the city. So partially when they are eating their food, one of their members actually started to eat a lot, not because he's hungry of hiking, but started to eat a lot, and then the face suddenly changed. Don't talk to anyone, just keep on eating and eating and eating. So luckily in their group there's another one who's practicing, know some Taoist practice. So we saw that this particular person actually was obsessed by a fox spirit. So they are able to clear the fox spirit on that moment. If not, at least 2 of them would have been followed by the fox spirit. So in deep mountainous regions, there are a lot of different types of spirits. So fox spirits is different. They are also living in group, just like fox, just like wolves. They live in a community, especially those spirits. So it's not something I make up, actually happened. So also this Feng Shui master, from that day onward, they never dare to touch anything that has to do with mountain spirits and so on, anything that has to do with mountain Feng Shui, that means doing Yin Feng Shui and so on. For almost 10 years, I think, it was a phobia. So these things are real, because I'm not interested to talk about things that we saw on TV and then it's form of fantasy or script right out. Real story, real people. So therefore, a lot of different types of spirits, and most of them, we can say, in the mountain areas that a person will encounter, what sort of spirits will encounter. Ghosts are very rarely. That means ghosts or human spirits that pass away are very rarely in the hills area or in the mountain areas, because unless the person have met up with some tragedy at the mountain area or while they're hiking and so on, then they would, if they pass away and no proper inviting of the souls back to their family, then they would stuck in the mountains or in the hill. But that is very rarely. Because why? Because as I've said just now, in each of the mountains and the hills, they are bound to be mountain spirits, hill spirits, and so on. So they guard their territory quite closely. So we call it, in Cantonese, we call it San San, San Mei, San Jing. So there are a lot of different types of spiritual beings in the mountain. So it is not only in cultures, in Chinese cultures, but also you can see in Indonesian cultures, in Tibetan cultures, Indian cultures. So they are across all those olden cultures, and usually they live near the hills or near the mountains. Then you can see different sort of beings that have been encountered by humans. And then usually it's only within the territory. They don't come out to villagers and so on. Usually it's people who cross into their area. There are also halflings. Halflings, such as when we talk about fox spirits, those are what we call halflings. Halfling means that they are partial human and also partial animal beings. So those are what we call in spiritual pantheon, in Buddhist pantheons, are animal beings that somehow are able to cultivate, or they are able to have certain, that means their mental faculty have developed more, is that they are able to live longer lives than their peers, therefore they start some cultivation. Or in Buddhism, usually we say that those people have karmic circumstances that when they take rebirth, certain part of the memory is still there. So then they are able to continue. They are previous life, they are cultivators, but because of their certain attachments, in this life they become, they rebirth as animals, but do leave their senses still there. So from there they slowly evolve and slowly cultivate, and usually those are in the mountains. So we have different types, fox, we have snakes, big snakes, huge snakes. Those are all what we call halflings. And in Taiwan, there's very famous one, which is the movie in 2017. We call it the Hong Yi Xiao Ni Hai, which is Hong Yi Xiu Lui Hai. That movie 2017, you can go and search. That movie, I think the name is called Tag Along. The English name is called Tag Along. I think YouTube has its full movie now. Maybe already the copyright is already finished or something like that. So you can go and search, called Tag Along, Tagalong. So it talks about, in Taiwan, it's famous, they call it Mo Sin Na. So it's Mo Sen Zai. So it's Mo Sen Zai, Mo Sin Na. So that itself is also usually spirits that comes in the form of a small child. Usually they appear to the hikers as in a small child. And villagers across Taiwan, usually close to the mountains, they will have that experience. Is that usually some of the people who are not familiar in how we say the area, or the first time they go up to the hills, then they will meet up along their hike when they are tired or when they are lost from the group. Then they will meet up with either an old person or a small children. So usually it's a female children. Okay, so it's a female child, and then the child will usually lead them deeper into the jungle, and then usually they would be lost. And for this kind, they will be lost for maybe 3 days, 5 days, or even a whole week. And when they are found, usually they will be eating leaves, eating twigs. Sometimes they will be eating those dead animals, which they thought are normal foods. That means they get sort of hypnotized by that. But usually the person that is being led by this what they call the Mosina in Taiwan, usually they are not found dead. They are found alive. It's just that means the beings just play with them when they go into the territory. Okay, in our Malay culture, it's called the jin, or they call it makhluk halus. Makhluk halus, also the jin's character. So if you ask the orang asli, that means our Malaysian indigenous tribe, also they would have their own methods, their own way of genes and methods in our own, in their own way, in order to protect themselves. Because you know, our indigenous people, our orang asli, they live in the jungle, so they had their livelihood. Some of them, if they don't have any farming, they will go and hunt for wild boar, hunt for animals. So they have to, every day, day in and day out, they have to pass through certain areas or go into certain areas where they are residing in the jungle. So they have their own ways of protecting themselves also. So it's not a make-up story. Each culture, it couldn't be make-up. If it's a make-up, it will only be specific to one culture. But this one, the culture is across different cultures, different types of religion, some with no religion, like the Orang Asli. Also, they are met with different types of beings in the jungle. Wait, let's see what Jason is saying. Jason said, encounter before a gigantic ghostly fish head with human body looking spirit or jinn in our very own Penang Hill. Came out a photo taken. I haven't seen that photo before. Maybe next time I'm going to search for it, Jason. Not surprising, not surprising. Wait, if for those of you who are staying in Penang Hill, later I'll tell a story about demarcation, or in Cantonese we call kit kai, jie jie. That means they have certain areas that you don't cross, and we have one actually in Penang Hill base there, near the camps. Later I'll talk about, they have a specific rules in that area for the beings. Later we'll talk about it, and then you see whether it's accurate. Ghosts, then that's why it's very rare. Why it's very rare to have ghosts in the mountains is because if you pass away and people don't invite your spirit back to the family, right? Usually you will be recruited. You will be forcibly recruited to become part of the mountain spirits, what we call troops, or you will be held captive, or you will be what we call pulverized. You'll be eaten up by the mountain spirit if they are not those who are cultivating towards what we call towards the benevolent path. There are different types of cultivators. One type, they cultivate just because they want to extend their life force. Another type, they cultivate because they want to get out, rebirth into human, and then eventually into higher planes. So for those spirits, there are two types of cultivation. So if they are just cultivating to extend their life force, right? So usually they will just sapu, they will just makan up, they will eat up the whatever spirits that are there, that if they are not claimed. Okay, so make sure what can you do for those of you that like to go hiking. Then some of you might be saying, hey, I go and hike so many times, so no problem, nothing to be scared about, those tracks. If let's say you are a male person with beard, with mustache and all that, so not likely you will get problems. Without any protection, not likely you will get problems. It's because your yang qi itself is already strong enough. So your appearance itself already, most of the time, they don't want to mess with that sort of outlook person. But if let's say you are of senior age, you are a female person, or if you are a younger teenager, or you are very those upkept tidy types who in Hokkien we call su bun type, or those in Cantonese we call si man type, then if your luck is down, you are likely a target. Okay, so it happens whether if the path is always been taken by people, then you don't have that risk is not high. But if the problem is that if you take the path that is least taken by people, that means new track, some people now they like to go for new tracks and so on, then you have to get yourself protected. because you never know. People say the risk of gets more when you increase your activity level more. It means your odds of getting it are more once you are there. Okay? So how do you get self-protection? So do you know that how does those spirits or those beings assess which or who to target, or which one to target? What are the criteria or what they are looking for? Because everybody, you're wearing your singlet or you're wearing your training t-shirt and pants or whatever, everybody looks the same, right? So what do they actually target for, or what do they actually look at, or how they assess? Actually, for the spiritual world, when they look at each human being, they don't look at whether you're handsome, you're beautiful, you're pretty, or you're not. Actually, they are looking at the what we understand as aura, or the energy level, or the energy brightness of that person. So if the person energy level is very bright, it's harder to collude their mind. It's harder for them to influence your mind. That means to bring you off the different path, or to make you go round and round on one same place. So it's harder for them to do that because your energy level are still bright, and sometimes it's bigger. So it's very hard for them to. They have to spend a lot of energy in order to get you. So they usually would target those energy level who are smaller or who are closer to the body. That means their field of energy is much more less. So those are the ones that are easier to influence. Especially, that's why even in hiking nowadays in Malaysia, if you're allowed, whichever state that you're in, or if you are in Singapore, I don't know whether it's allowed now, but in Hong Kong also well. Lately in Hong Kong, a lot of people have been going for hikings because their government start open up, right? Also a lot of accidents, and then those will happen when those people go alone. Why alone? Because when you're one person, when you're two person, it's harder for them to influence your mind or take control over your mind. When you are alone, it is easier because the things that you see, you cannot verify with another person. So if there's two person, it's very difficult to influence two person at one time, unless that particular being in the mountain or in the spirits has very strong energy level or very strong ability. If not, it's very hard. Usually those that like to go and influence the hiker's mind or influence the people who are enter the territory are usually very playful. They usually will target, some of them are younger spirits, so they like to play with the person. So it depends on your energy level. So there are a few things that you can do if you have any form of Buddha amulet or any form of from temples that you get from temples, Buddha amulet. So you wear those amulet before you go for hiking. A lot of times people will say, I don't want this one is so old traditional so 老餅 one咁婆媽睇到咁肉酸. The thing is that you never know. Later I'll talk to you about my cousin who was actually also got stuck in the mountains when he went hiking. There are those that because he is located in Kedah, so he always like to go up the Gurun trail in the mountain, and then they are a bunch of friends. They like to actually hike all those new paths. They like to make their own path and hike. So he was actually, in one time, he was trapped for more than 12 hours. He can't seem to find his way out. So later I'll talk about that. He also stepped into a demarcation, stepped into a Kitkai. So if you have any form of Buddha amulet, wear the Buddha amulet, wear that amulet before you go for hiking. Because you never know. Even though sometimes the path may be a simple path that you have walked before, you walk every 1 week few times, but you never know when your luck is down because you don't know how to look at yourself. So once your luck is down, it happens to be that day, A lot of people say, 唔怕一萬最怕萬一. So you're not worried most of the time. You just worry that one time which you have a lower aura or lower luck, then it will get to you. Then the second thing is that if it's not Buddha amulet, then you can get a Taoist talisman. If you have a Taoist talisman that's for protection, that one also will. So what does these two items, what does actually spiritual items do is that once you wear a spiritual item, right, it is properly consecrated, properly done one, your body brightness will appear brighter. So it's just an aura feel only. So the vibration is brighter. So from afar, when those spirits or those beings look at you, they can see that your body has a brighter aura energy. So therefore, you are not a good target. So you don't make yourself a good target. It's just like, you know, people have made research also. Why do certain people get robbed and certain people they don't get robbed? Is that those people they recruit those people who are ex-robbers or ex-thieves, then they put it on the street, then they ask those people, their research has been done before, psychological research, then they will ask the robber to pick by their instinct, who would they pick? Then they will see a lot of people walking through, then they will start to pick, this one I will pick, this lady, this guy. So, and then in their conclusion, they found out that people who get robbed or get mugged in the streets are those ones that when they walk, it seems like directionless. It means you are going for, you know, a stroll, you don't know where you're going, maybe you'll be looking up and down or looking at your phone, you have no directions. And those people, they are not likely targets for the muggers or for the robbers, are those that have a sense of direction. That means those people who are rushing or who are walking towards, maybe they are walking to the next traffic light, or they are walking directly to a certain point or certain shop before they make a corner or so on. So those people who knows where they are going, who are very sure in their appearance, they are not likely targets for the muggers or the robbers. So in fact, it's the same also in the spiritual world. They look at, the spirits will look at you in terms of your brightness. Then the third one is that you can wear what we call a body double. Body doubles, maybe I will make a episode out of, we talk about body double. So body double are items which are spiritually been made to become like your bodyguard. So it becomes like your bodyguard, so that means you have an extra bodyguard that follows you, spiritual bodyguards that follow you. So whenever they are likely target, then that one will come out to protect you. So with that, I've also have experiences of a hiker, one of my friend who likes to go for hiking. Then she brings one of the bodyguard with her as well on that day, and on the path while she was hiking, she met up with a snake. So after she met up with the snake didn't bite her. And then she came down from the hills. Then she discovered that actually her spiritual bodyguard broke into two after I think she went for a certain funeral. So that means help her evade one of the ways. Or one of maybe some tragic accident or some problems, maybe you will get influence in the mind or so on, that will also help. So these are the three items. That means whatever you have in terms of spiritual, Taoism or Buddhism, whatever things you have, you wear, you either on your neck, on your wrist, never too superstitious because you never know. Even like those of you in Penang, you have seen like people went for hiking. I think lately, last time also we have one case a few years back where the guy was lost in Penang Hill. Penang Hill actually is not a long distance hike. So the guy was lost on the way up to Penang Hill only. So it's just like halfway route he was lost. And then for a few days they can't find him. Up and down they can't find him. When they found him, he was kneeling down. And when we talk about this, like kneeling down, a lot of people who have been found passed away, usually they will be in a kneeling down position. So I don't know why. Most likely is that they cannot find their way out. Maybe they've been asking for help, or doing anything. But when they found the person who passed away, that hiker who passed away, actually he was just beside the path. That could obviously be seen by anyone who actually passed through that area, but the search rescue team cannot seem to find him. So this is what you say, you cannot get, be too careful, because you are going up to the mountains. Of course, water is even worse. For Chinese saying is that, "Hei san mok hei shui," but the thing is that means you can bully the mountain, you can't bully the water. But nowadays, the mountain also you cannot bully. If you go up there without any preparation, not a good idea. Not a good idea. So before then there was also, I remember also a instant. One of the things is that if you are, that this one is correct, if you are hiking in the mountains, ask your friends not to call your full name. A lot of times people like, nowadays a lot of us like to address friends in full name, means that they are calling you to get your attention. So for example, they will call you Tan Ah Bing. So if it's your full name is Tan Ah Bing, they will call you very loud, Tan Ah Bing, turn here. So in the mountains or in the hills, one of my clients, actually their family, they went for hikings in a foreign country. They went for those tourist hike, quite high mountains. That mountains was famous for fox spirits. So my client, together with the wife and the children, they went for a hike. And when they went for a hike, somehow one of my client's children, I think it was starting to pick up things or whatever, then they like to shout at the child to make them stop. So they shout the full name. So after that, that evening when they got down from the hills, the son actually had a high fever. So had quite high fever for a few days. Then only the son recovered, and then, but they don't know why. It could be viral, it could be fever. But after they got back, strings of events starts to happen. So then my client came and asked me. So I asked him what he did and so on. So I found out that he went for hiking and then was calling his son's name. So he don't know whether that was the cause. But the reason later I found out was there are some spirit disturbance, and that particular is a spirit that follow them back to their home. So some of you may be asking, like, how come spirit can go across sea? I thought spirit cannot go across sea. It depends. It depends. If you took something from the mountains, that's why also there's this one is apply across the board. Don't take anything when you go hiking. Rock, a piece of leaf, anything that belongs to the mountain, you don't take. Down the hill, you don't take, because those are the things that belongs there. In China, in Europe, certain what we call holy sites in Europe as well, there have been many cases that people that took things from the mountains, and especially even in volcanic regions, like certain areas in Hawaii, in Indonesia, those area with very strong mountain spirits, you don't take anything. There have been countless experiences of people who, once they took those things back to their home, they experience consistent bad luck, consistent tragedies, and things that happens to them that they cannot explain until they return that particular piece. They remember they found someone psychic who told them that you took something from the mountain. Then only after they return, and then only things starts to go back to normal. That means they don't experience that bad luck anymore. Slowly only recover. So for my client, this one is that spirits happen to follow back. Why in Japan it's a little bit different? Because Japan, a lot of people go into the mountains or the hills to suicide. So the chances of encountering a spirit or a ghost is higher in the mountain areas, because their people, their culture is that they like to go and die alone in the mountain. So you never know from which era or from which, when did they die. So it's worthwhile to have some protection with you when you go for that. Okay, so before, what can you do if you are hiking, or people who are, or those of you who like to hike? Before you go out, if your home has any form of altar, that means either a Taoist altar or a Buddhist altar, you just light incense. Light incense, just say that today, where will you be going? You will be going to, let's say for example, I say I want to go to Penang Hill. I'll be going to Penang Hill, so kindly bless or whatever for my trips, safe trip to come back. So it's worthwhile for you to do, because if you happen to be unlucky and you happen to encounter just one of the beings up anywhere in the mountains and in the hill, this particular action that you did before you went for the hike will be your lifesaver. Because sometimes people, they don't know, they think, no need lah, I got handphone. When the news is that when you have been hallucinated by anything at the energy field or whatever in the mountains, on the hills, your telephone signal will be off. Somehow there's no signal, GPS, everything, all you can throw out. There's nothing. You cannot seem to find your way out. So this particular one action will be able to help to save you, because you have announced to your, at least your home guardians or your home altar, or some of you don't have home altar, right? You have your ancestor urn, your ancestor tablet also can, because your ancestor tablet will be, your ancestors will be the first one to help you, guide you. Or before, if you are going to really big mountains, that means really high mountains, where I take a drink. Answer some question while I drink. Wang Chige said the jinn makan the spirit. What happened to the mind of the spirit? It doesn't happen anything. They just extend the life force. So they eat you up. So you don't get to reincarnate anymore. You also get to be breakfast. So they eat you for breakfast. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. Because if you have encountered any Taoist temple who have really fierce deities, those fierce deities also, some of their method is that they direct ingest the spirit that refuse to leave or whatever. So they will just catch the spirit, that medium, because if they catch the spirit, straight they put in their mouth. That means they will just consume it. So once you consume, that means you cannot go for rebirth anymore. So it's same lah. There are deities helping human to eat up the bad spirits. There are also mountain spirits that can eat up your normal things. Okay. Okay. So then they also here say that traditional Buddhism got 6 classes of beings. Ghosts and jinns, all jinns, sometimes jinns, they are called what we call, they have cultivated up to what we call the asura level already. Some of them are not beyond the ghost realm. They are the asura level beings. So that means what the Amor will be saying demons, what we call them demons being. Okay. So therefore, before going up huge mountains, coming back, what you can do if you are going for hiking, like areas like the Himalayas, or you go to Bhutan, before you go up to Tiger's Nest, Taksang. Usually, if you have been following in a group, or if you are going there for pilgrimage, usually in the morning, either the Lamas or the Rinpoches, before that, the day before, or on the morning itself, they will do a smoke offering, a practice of offering, for you to have a safe journey up to Taksang. or if you're Himalayas, also before at the mountain, at the base in Nepal, before you leave, start to go to those different stations, right? Then they will also do a ritual, a practice. So in the Taiwanese, also the same. If you are going for Taiwan, or if you are going for higher mountains, even in, for example, Kinabalu, and so on, it's worthwhile for you if you can find on the base. If not, you just on the base, you offer some food or offer some incense for the mountain spirit, just saying that, okay, today I'm just coming for hiking, and please help to have a safe journey so that I can come back down. I'm just coming for a visit. So for mountains in Taiwan, also usually they have those tuti miao. They have those temples that are in the base of the mountains or base on the hills. So it's best for you to just go for at the base of the hill, just to announce that you are going up this particular hill, to ask for the earth deities to help bless you or look after you going up. So that would also help you in a way. There are many stories of people who got lost in the mountain, and then suddenly they see some old men, or they followed another being, and halfway they saw an old man saying that, hey, don't follow this person, you just lead this way, then you can find a way out. And then true enough, they are able to get out safely from the mountain. So if you're going for big mountains, longer mountains, it's also worthwhile to pray. Even in, like for example, in Penang, we have those hills. We have Crane Hills beside Penang Hill, and along the way there are also some temples. There are also some, we can see some earth deity huts and so on. So those are the areas that you can offer some incense, or even just a prayer gesture, so for you to have a safe journey up there. That is what we call basic lah. You go to friend's house, you will call your friends. If you met up with their parents, you will call their parents and so on. But if you are going up the mountain, then you pay respect to the earth deities there, to the land deities there. They're saying that you're just going up for a stroll, for a hike. It's just being what we call being respectful lah. So make sure those are the things that you do. Okay, so the third one, which is the more interesting, is the demarcation. So as I've said before, there are certain spirits, they have territories, they have kitkai. Kitkai means there are two types. One type is being done by the mountain spirits. That means they don't want any person or animals or whatever encroach into their territory. So once you cross that, it's something like the Bermuda Triangle. So Bermuda Triangle, people say that is a large water kitkai. So for mountains, for hill, there are also certain demarcation, because certain land spirit, their territory, they will mark, for example, this side. The other territory will be marked by another being. So they don't want certain area, that means the in between one, they will mark it out. So whomever that cross that line, usually they will find themselves lost, they cannot get out, because you have entered into their demarcation point. So in the army, they call it demarcation point. That means, for example, between Malaysia and Thailand, up north, for example, then we have a demarcation, no man's land, right? So for the mountain spirit, also they have a demarcation point. So certain areas, they don't like people to trespass, so or human beings or animals to trespass. So those are being done by the mountain spirit. So once you get into their demarcation point, usually you will sort of the usual experience of hikers and people who are lost, they are not being led by somebody else. It's just that they follow their friends, or if they happen to slow down, maybe that area still got signal, they try to play the phone and so on, they slow down, and then they see that the path is very obvious. When they try to follow back their friends, it seems that they walk into that area where it's like total silence. They cannot, and then they can't see their friends, even though a while ago their friends is just right in front, but they cannot see the friends. They cannot see their friends. And then they keep on walking for a few hours, keep coming back to the same place. That is when you know that you have already stepped into a demarcation point. And demarcation point usually are in the hills, in the mountains. Sometimes also there will be in certain parts of certain areas which we call highly spiritual, or there are uncertain energy points. But we will talk about that in a different session. So for this one, we talk about the mountains one. Okay, so just now we talked about Penang Island, right? So for those of you don't know, is that actually in Penang, for those of you who are staying in Penang, if you are like to hiking and so on, in our waterfall area that used to be camps for the scout, that area near Botanical Gardens, all the way until Penang Hill, spiritually, not our Penang government mark out, spiritually, there's a demarcation point there for the beings on top of the hills. So on top of the hills, actually, they are, according to my friends that handled the case, last time, is that in that area, there's a very strong mountain spirit in the demarcation point. So last time when they tried to negotiate, because of a lot of, every year, there'll be one person, one child or one person will pass away while the scouts are still active in that area. In those days, like 20 years back. So their temple took up the responsibility to go for the negotiation, and when they go for the negotiation, right, ended up, because they want to secure the area, because there's so many children going in and out for the camping in that area. So ended up, finally, after their negotiation, also, they have to, even the deities also cannot negotiate for, that means, for the spirits to total back off. Ended up is that every year they will need to take one. They will need to take one. That means that every year there will be one accident that you can see will happen. And if you search back in terms of our hikers in Penang Hill, you will see, you try to see whether it's correct. So I'm not saying here that it's a fact, it's correct, or tomorrow maybe somebody go and quote me. You just search back the history. Every year, whether there's any fatality in terms of the hikers, or in terms of some accidents happen in that particular area. Okay, so it's always worthwhile, because according to my friends that handle the case, they end up is that they need to take one every year regardless. So that's the minimum, coming up to the minimum. So what they do in terms of after they took the spirits, we don't know. After they took the person, we don't know. That means after they pass away, what happened, we don't know. So it may not be real, it may not be true. You need to go and check the facts, and then you come and tally whether every year they have a demarcation point. So if it's very difficult when that area itself has a spirit who are very strong, if the mountain spirits or the mountain beings in the area is very strong, it's really hard to break off from the demarcation point, because their controlling of the area is very strong. Even like, for example, Gunung Tahan in Malaysia, even like Kinabalu, all that, you ask the local people whether they have mountain spirits, they will tell you that it will have Duncan, is it true that if we make ourselves more fearful, we break the kind of link with the spirit that tried to bring in for a quickie ride? I understand the first part of it. Fearful, you cannot be made up one. Fearful cannot be made up one, unfortunately, because when they are in the spiritual world, just like your animal instinct, it's just that human beings, we lost that sense of instinct, or that sense of instinct. We lost that sense of instinct because we have our mind that we develop our mind in terms of our thinking faculty and so on. So we suppress most of our animal instinct due to our ethics and due to so on. So we lost most of that. Just like dogs or animals in the jungle, if they smell even the tiger's poo, the tiger's shit, they will run very far. even the smell of the tiger's shit. So, but nobody taught them you smell tiger shit, you run, ma. That's just their basic instinct. So their instinct as an animal. So just like when they recognize you, you cannot make yourself more fearful. And from afar, they can see through you because they see through your aura. They see through your energy level. So it's not like something you make up, I make a very, very fearful in the jungle. You wouldn't, because instantly they can see, they can smell you. They can smell whether you are fearful or you are fearful. Wong says that I thought once mind continue cannot be destroyed. Even if it goes, the mind is gone. Gone lah. Tell you, gone. That means you cannot rebirth. You got trapped in between. For eons, you got trapped in the tummy or you get trapped somewhere. That means you are trapped. Once you are eaten, you are trapped in that place. It is destroyed in my sense that you are trapped. You cannot argue when you are encountering those cases. You cannot say that, then what about those spirits that a lot of people later in some episode, because I have planned it out, people say, hey, no, this one, you go, certain spirits, everybody thought that spirits, once you do Bado deliverance, you do Chao Tu, then the spirit they'll be able to leave this plane and go for rebirth. Not likely. There are a lot of spirits, different types of spirit types, that they cannot go for rebirth already. We will talk about that. And those are the ones usually have been made into tools, into weapons by different necromancers. So not all spirits can go for rebirth. So it doesn't mean that everybody can go for rebirth. Some is that they know that their karmic debts are so heavy that there's no way they can go for rebirth. So therefore, read from books is one thing, understanding it practically is not a different thing. So I don't think that everything can be reincarnated. Everything, if I do bad things, if I kill a lot of people, then I reincarnate as dog, reincarnate as ants, but then after a few eons, I'm back to human or have chance. No chances. Some you cannot take rebirth. Okay? So, what happened to my cousin? My story before we conclude. Demarcation. Still have one more. I'll talk about my cousin one later on. I'll talk another one. So, fourth one is that, what if you got followed back? Usually, if you go to the mountains, if you got followed, usually it wouldn't be a follow. Usually, you will have an exposure of the chi of the spirit beings of the hills or the mountain. Exposure here means that you will come across their path. It means either their chi or it happens touch your body, and then when you come back, you will have sickness, you will have skin problems, you will have fever for many, many days, and it can't seem to solve, because those things are not medical problems. Those are your aura, your auric field, or your energy field being damaged by the chi that you pass through in the mountains. Explain it in an English way, in a Western way. That means your auric field being ruptured, being destroyed, certain part of it. So that's why you experience headache, fever, continuous for a few days, and then you go for medical checkup. The doctor don't know what's wrong with you. Coming back, still have fever, but nowadays fever, people say it's COVID-19, so you're scared like shit. But like if skin problems, that is one of the usual indicators. body rashes. But most of the time, if you can make it back home and then only experience those rashes, don't worry, because you can make it back to your home, you are still safe. Those are just by effect. So therefore, if you cannot get if after you seek doctors attention, medical attention, you still cannot get it rectified, then you should go find, maybe it's alternatively, it should be something spiritual that you have encountered. And then usually for us is that after a few talisman, then they will recover, they will straight. Okay. What usual things that you can do is that after you come back from the hiking, if you have a talisman, then of course, or you have some amulet with you, usually you won't have that problem. But if you have come back and then you don't feel easy, usually when you encounter any of spiritual beings or spiritual encounters, your unconscious mind will be very clear in telling you that you have done something or you've encountered something. It's just that you choose to ignore it. Okay, if you think back clearly on that day or when it happens, usually you don't feel you feel uncomfortable for a while. That is your body telling you something is wrong. So you come back, you can use coarse salt. Coarse salt, that means sea salt. Don't go and buy those iodized, already iodized. You should buy the natural one, but that one is more expensive. If you have been done through with some, if we have, we do it, our way is that we will burn a talisman into the salt, and then we use the salt to wash your body. So then usually that itself would help to clear. But if you don't have, then you have coarse salt. Coarse salt, what's the name? The name is Lush. Quite expensive. Lush. If you have Lush outlets, or you can buy things from Lush, Lush, the UK company doing a lot of those, how to say, what we call that, body care products, natural one. So they have also items with made scrubbers with coarse salt that they do. I buy one, I think it's 80 ringgit, very expensive. Soap bomb. Soap bomb don't know have salt or not. I know the just now what I talked about, I forgot already. Their scrubber they have salt. You know why? Because Lush, if you study carefully about the founder, they are also the believers of pagan. Pagan, if you trace back to their roots, pagan beliefs are also what we call in the ancient white people. I'm not saying the founder, I'm saying paganism and their follower and their rituals and all. They are called what we call in the old world. In the old world, they call it the white witch. So they are witchcraft, but for the better of people. So that's why they will use that in terms of their salt. So Jason says Epsom salt. Yes, you can mix Epsom salt together with the coarse sea salt. So for also for Lush, I don't have anything. They didn't pay me anything, but the easiest one I can think of. Okay, so then you use the coarse salt to rub. That usually will help. If you've been to a long hike, you come back, you can do some of these preventive measures to help yourself. Okay. Then I won't talk about the demarcation one. So demarcation, if you get trapped, what do? If you find that you yourself have been walking, like walking for 1 hour, you're still back to point 1. Suddenly you realize what you first do is that you don't continue to walk. Stay where you are to consume your to conserve your energy. Wait for help. Wait for people to come. Of course, basic survival procedure. Before you go for hike, make sure you, if you're going alone, make sure you tell someone in your family where you're going. You know, this what we call in Cantonese 自保嘅程序. That means your self-protection procedure must have. If you live up until 20, 30 years of age, you still don't know how to do that, then very difficult. It means before you go for hike, you must tell someone in your family who's not going together with you. No point telling your friends who's going together with you. Tell them, today I'm going up for a hike. Where? Which area? Which hill? Okay? So once you are lost, you calm your mind down, you conserve your energy, you stay in a spot which you think it's quite open, should be able people to discover you. So you don't go and try to look for a way out. You cannot find your way out once you're trapped. And then the more fearful you get, the more fun it is for the spirit that hold you captive. Okay? Remember that. The scarier your mind becomes, the more worried you become, the more fun they think they're having, because they manage to evoke all these emotions from you. So if you stay in one place, calm your mind down, then it's no fun playing with you, because this one, you're like not moving one and not scared and just stay in one place. So maybe that way, in a way, they will let you go. Number two, if not, at least you conserve your energy. So my cousin, he was stuck in that hill for 12 hours. All his friends, because how he got stuck is that his friend went up the hike first, so he followed the trail later. When he followed the trail later, somehow he got lost. He got lost because he's quite common. Usually like to go hikes and new routes and so on. He was stuck for 12 hours. They searched for him high and low. After all of them came down, they searched for him high and low. He was trapped in Kedala at that time. I also don't know until they managed to rescue him off. They searched for him, called his name. He tried so many ways to try to get out of that particular hill. He find so many ways at mountain, I think. Try to get out, he can't get out. So finally, you know what he did? I asked him, what's the final thing that you got? The final moment that how he was discovered, it was already midnight. They tried to search for him since afternoon. Since the afternoon, I think almost close to morning. At night already, he said he can't see his hands. He was terrified. Because jungle, you know, if there's no city lights below, for those of you who hike before in the middle of the night, you know, you cannot see even your palm. So when you start to get scared and the things get dark, then your mind start to play all those different tricks with you already. Maybe it's not spirit, maybe not. So you get very tense. Your mind, you get very tense. So in his final moment before they found him, you know what he did? He almost gave up, and then finally he called his mom. Not phone. In his mind, he called his mother. His mother passed away many, many years back. So actually, when I do the reconstruction of our ancestor tombs, together with the mom, I've done the arrangement. So his mom, I know, is still here. It means they haven't gone for rebirth and so on. The mom is still here. So in his final moment, he called for his mom. And then after he called for his mom, called for his mother in his mind, he called for his mother. Then he take few steps forward. He stepped onto a pile of leaves, which are actually the edge of a platform of the hill. So he fell down from that. He fell down, I think it was about 12 feet or so. He fell down about 12 feet. He injured his back. That is the moment they found him. So his mother, I would say that his mother actually saved him in that stint. In his final moment, he called his mother. The mother actually saved him because he fell down. Then the moment he fell down, then they found him. They were just walking just along that side only, along near that cliff area. So they found him. So that's why it's nothing to be playful of. If you like to go hiking one, you better do all the procedures correctly. Jason say, post FB before I start hiking. Yeah, at least they know your last moment. You post FB or you post Instagram every step of the way when there's signal, so people know where you are. Bring bodyguard. This one, how to avoid eaten by jinn. It depends. It depends on your affinity. This question is similar to a male person asked me, how do I bring a beautiful lady stranger out for dinner? So it depends on your luck. Number one, most important is your luck. If you encounter those who are cultivated for life force one, then is you need luck more than anything else. How Bomo? Okay, Jason say, can explain how Bomo, what method they use to find those lost hikers. Usually in Bomos or spiritual way, usually they will send their own guardian spirits or their own spirits to help look for the person. Because spirit is easier to find rather than human trying to find some individual who's been trapped by a spirit. So they'll send out the spirits to go and find the lost hikers. Usually they will then be able to pinpoint where they are. Okay, so even like the case with the group of hikers in Thailand, in the cave explorers, the kid and their teacher, also is the same. When they ask the monk, then the monk will be able to say that they are still alive, and then when they will be able to come out. So usually also they walk into a demarcation point. All right, so summary: if you're going for hiking, get yourself good protections, do the necessary steps that we have talked about, and also if something you think that something followed you back. I know a lot of us here, we are modern people. We don't believe in spiritual stuff. But spiritual, you ask any of those dwellers, any of those people who lived in the mountains, near the hills, in different cultures, they have experienced, they have encountered this. So this is not something made up stories or from scripts, Hollywood, Korea, Thailand, or China. So it's something real. It's not happening. Okay, never mind. It's not here. Okay, so also be wary of demarcation point. That means if you walk with your friends, suddenly you go into the place and sort of feel weird. Demarcation point, like Duncan asking here, what are the signs for demarcation point? You would know that you walk into a demarcation point. Number one is that usually it's total silence. Normal whatever environment that you go in, you can still hear some sound, right? So the moment you pass a demarcation point, usually you are under the control by the spirits or by the mountain spirits or so ever. So they create an illusion in your mind. So if it's an illusion, they do not go until very detailed in terms of having the environment sound as well. So your illusion itself usually would not have any background noises. That means you talk to yourself, you can hear, of course, but other than that, you don't hear anything else. So that one is one of the signs. But in order to realize that, also you need to practice mindfulness a lot. If you don't practice mindfulness a lot, of people, they don't discover. Not so easy. If it's easy to discover, then the demarcation point is not worth it. Okay, so another one I'll continue tomorrow. So for what you can do after today, if you're going for hiking, make sure you pack all your hiking essentials, and at least you have one protective amulet or whatever with you in your hiking essential. Number two, let your families or your home altar, let your family know, family members or close members know, and also your deities or your ancestor tablets or whatever, or your Buddha altar or whatever. Just make an announcement, a simple thing to do only, not much. And then share with your friends where you're going for hiking. So that's the most important of all. In terms of another type of demarcation I will talk about, that one is natural. Natural demarcation, there's also certain methods that you can do to, you can do to break the spell of the natural demarcation. Okay, that one can be done. So I will tell you guys in some episodes when we talk about natural demarcations and how people who are practicing magic, we use those materials that can cause demarcation, that can cause hallucination, to make into oils and make into things for us to do our work. Okay, so for what are the things that you need to do today after listening to this and all that? Share out with your friends who are hikers, tag them, share out and then write what you have learned today. What are some of the points that you learned today? Chant mantra. Wong says chant mantra can break the spell. Cannot. These are not normal ghosts that suppress you in your sleep in the hotel. That one you can chant mantra, or you can use 4-letter words, then they'll let you go. But chant mantra usually wouldn't, because they are not normal ghosts. Okay, so share it out with your friends. If you do more sharing, then if you share 3 times continuous, then I'll write your name down. Then you'll put into eligible for us to do a lucky draw for the Buddha amulet. Okay, so I think this one is very much worthwhile. So tomorrow, what we'll talk about? Tomorrow, do tune in 9:55. We'll talk about what are the conditions for houses that attract spirits. What are the conditions, and whether your house have those conditions. You need to look out for whether your friend's house have that condition. So important, you need to click like and follow, so that the moment I'm on tomorrow, then you will be able to know. All right, so have yourself a good evening. It's been a long day for me. So see you guys, and take care. Share and share to your friends, right? Okay.